The gym smelled of fresh mats and sweaty determination. Outside, the sun was setting slowly over the suburban strip mall, casting a warm orange glow across the windows of the community karate center. Inside, the atmosphere buzzed with noise, shouts of effort, the snap of kicks, and the claps of proud parents watching from plastic chairs along the wall. But for Aaliyah and Amara Davis, 12-year-old twin girls with identical cornrowed hair and fierce brown eyes, this class was more than just an after-school activity. It was about proving something, to themselves, to their mom, and to anyone who ever doubted them. They stepped quietly onto the mat, dressed in freshly pressed white GIs, the belts around their waists knotted neatly, green belts earned through months of practice. Though small in size, the twins carried themselves with a kind of quiet intensity. Their mother, Rochelle Davis, watched from a corner of the room, her arms folded, her face calm but alert. As a single mom and an Army veteran, Rochelle had taught her daughters discipline and resilience early. She never pushed them into fighting, but she made sure they knew how to stand their ground. It had been a few weeks since the twins transferred to this dojo. Their previous school had shut down unexpectedly, and this new place, while highly rated, had a different vibe. The instructors were strict, no nonsense, and the black belts, well, they weren't all as supportive as you'd expect. In particular, there were two teen boys, both older, taller, stronger, who had taken an odd interest in the twins, Marcus and Tyrese, both 17, both wearing black belts like armor, and both fueled by a strange mix of superiority and something uglier. From the start, Marcus and Tyrese didn't hide their disdain. They mocked the girls' stances, mimicked their ki behind their backs, and rolled their eyes every time one of the twins landed a clean hit during sparring drills. One day, Tyrese had even whispered loud enough for others to hear. Green. Belts don't belong here, especially not ones who fight like ballerinas. That day, Aaliyah's jaw had clenched tight, but she said nothing. Rochelle had taught her better. Let your hands do the talking, her mom had told her once. Not in violence, in discipline, in focus, in letting your skills speak louder than your words. But tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air as class began. Even the instructor, Sensei Yamoto, a quiet, observant man in his 50s, seemed to sense something. He narrowed his eyes at Marcus and Tyrese but said nothing. The class was about to start sparring rotations and he made a quick announcement. Tonight we pair by belt and size. Respect each other. Control your power. This is practice, not war. The room split into pairs. The twins were used to sparring with each other. It was safer that way, but not tonight. Sensei pointed. Aaliyah, you're with Marcus. Amara with Tyrese. A low chuckle rose from the corner. Marcus cracked his knuckles. Tyrese smiled without warmth. Rochelle sat up straighter in her chair. The girls looked at each other briefly. No fear in their eyes, just a silent nod. Marcus stepped forward, already bouncing on his heels, arms loose, trying to look relaxed. But his eyes were sharp, almost predatory. Don't worry, he said to Aaliyah with a smirk. I'll go easy on you. She didn't answer. She just bowed, as required, then took her stance. Across the room, Amara bowed to Tyrese, who looked her up and down before mirroring the motion half-heartedly. Sensei clapped his hands. Begin. What followed wasn't an all-out fight. It couldn't be, not under dojo rules. But the aggression from the black belts was clear. Heavy strikes, fast feints, little mercy. Marcus moved with speed, testing Aaliyah's defense. She blocked, dodged, responded with perfect counters, calm, sharp, focused. Meanwhile, Tyrese tried to overwhelm Amara with flashy kicks and taunts, but she stayed grounded, slipping under his strikes with agile footwork, eyes never blinking. Rochelle watched with silent pride. She knew her daughter's strength, not just their skill, but the way they didn't let the world rattle them. They were fighters not because they wanted to hurt, but because they knew the world sometimes demanded strength. But something shifted as Marcus lunged in with a sweeping leg kick. Aaliyah sidestepped and countered with a clean reverse punch to his chest. Light contact, but solid enough. He stumbled back, shocked. Tyrese, seeing it from the corner of his eye, growled in frustration and pushed forward harder against Amara. They didn't like being embarrassed, especially not by two younger girls. Suddenly, Marcus narrowed his eyes and charged again, faster, harder. It was too much, too fast for controlled sparring. His foot shot toward Aaliyah's head. Gasps echoed from the parents watching. But Aaliyah dropped low and spun, sweeping his leg. He went down hard. Silence, and then laughter, from some kids in the back. Marcus scrambled up, red in the face. Furious. You think that's funny? He spat. Before anyone could react, he lunged again, clearly outside the boundaries of sparring now. Sensei shouted, "Marcus, stop!" But it was too late. Aaliyah didn't flinch. She didn't run. She stood her ground. And just as he reached her, something happened that changed everything. But before we go there, let's take a step back. Earlier that same morning, in a completely different part of town, another story had begun unfolding. A city bus pulled up to a crowded intersection. Inside, people shifted, phones in hands, eyes tired from long shifts and early alarms. Among them was a teenage boy, maybe 16. Quiet, respectful, dressed in a worn hoodie and jeans. He had taken the last available seat, backpack clutched on his lap. His earbuds played soft music, his gaze calm. At the next stop, a pregnant woman stepped on board. Blonde, pale, looking exhausted, one hand pressed gently to her lower back. She glanced around. No empty seats. Before she even made it halfway, down the aisle, the teen stood up without a word and gestured to her seat. A small act, but it would change everything. The woman looked surprised. "Thank you," she said, settling in carefully. The bus moved on. She sat quietly for a moment, catching her breath. Then she turned to the boy. "What's your name?" she asked. He hesitated. "Malik," he said softly. She nodded, then reached into her purse. "I want to give you something," she said. She handed him a folded note. He took it, confused. "Open it later," she said with a faint smile. What was inside that note would leave him speechless, and eventually connect him to a story unfolding miles away. A story of two fearless girls. A story of justice, strength, and the hidden power people carry when the world underestimates them. But for now, Malik slipped the note into his pocket, unaware of what it meant. And back at the dojo, as Marcus charged with fury in his eyes, and Aaliyah stood still, focused and ready. The moment hung frozen. Everything was about to change, and none of them knew just how closely their stories were about to collide. The air in the dojo felt heavier. Every eye was locked on Aaliyah and Marcus, frozen in the seconds before impact. Marcus's foot was already mid-swing, his face twisted with frustration. Not from pain, but from pride. He didn't expect a 12-year-old girl to knock him down in front of everyone. His ego couldn't take it. But what he didn't know was that Aaliyah had trained for moments like this. Moments where others lost control, and she had to stay calm. Where others used anger and she used focus, she didn't flinch. Instead, she pivoted not to strike back but to deflect. Her hand moved swiftly, redirecting Marcus's leg off course, just enough to keep things from turning dangerous. It was graceful, precise, almost too fast for most to catch. But Rochelle saw it. So did Sensei Yamoto. Marcus stumbled again, more from his own rage than her block. And this time Sensei stepped in fast. "Enough," he said sharply. Marcus, panting, stepped back, fists still clenched. His eyes darted around, realizing all the parents, all the students, everyone had seen what just happened. He lowered his arms, but his jaw stayed tight. Whatever had been bruised in him wasn't physical. It was deeper. Something about being shown up by someone smaller, younger, and unbothered had rattled him in a way he wasn't ready to admit. On the other side of the mat, Tyrese was still pressing Amara hard. Maybe he hadn't seen what happened with his friend, or maybe he didn't care. Amara was nimble, moving like water, weaving around his heavier strikes. But something in his movements had changed too. More aggression, less control. He was testing boundaries, not just of sparring rules, but of power. Sensei turned sharply. Tyrese, pull back. Tyrese ignored him. Then came the moment that lit up the whole room again. Amara stopped moving. Just for a second. She planted her foot, raised her guard. And when Tyrese came in with a sweeping strike, she didn't move away. She stepped into it. And just like that, with perfect timing, she caught his momentum and flipped him over her hip. He landed with a hard thud. No one laughed this time. Even Tyrese's friends in the corner were dead silent. Rochelle slowly stood from her seat. Not because she was worried, but because she knew what came next. Pride, humiliation, anger. It could all boil over fast in a place where egos weren't kept in check. Sensei Yamato walked onto the mat, his voice calm but firm. That's enough for tonight. Everyone, bow to your partners. The class obeyed, but there was tension in the air, a feeling that something had cracked open. As the students shuffled to the edge of the mat to grab their shoes and water bottles, Rochelle approached the twins quietly. She looked them in the eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. "You okay?" she asked. They both nodded. Neither spoke, but they didn't need to. Rochelle had seen what mattered. But from the far end of the room, Marcus and Tyrese were watching. Not saying anything, just watching. And that was the part Rochelle didn't like. It wasn't over. Not yet. Later that night, while the twins showered, and Rochelle cleaned up dinner, across town, Malik sat on his bed, the note still in his hoodie pocket. He hadn't opened it all day. Something about the way the pregnant woman had looked at him. Grateful, but also, something else had made him hesitate. He unfolded the note slowly. It wasn't long, just a few lines, handwritten in neat, slanted letters. Kindness reveals character. Your seat meant more than you know. If you ever need a door opened, use this. And beneath that, a phone number. No name, just that. Malik stared at the paper, confused. Was this some kind of test? A trick? His mom, Sheila, called from the kitchen. "You hungry, baby?" "Nah, I'm good," he called back, slipping the note under his pillow. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. What did she mean? Meant more than you know? Who was she? Some rich woman playing games? Or was it something deeper? The next day at school, Malik sat in the back of class as the teacher droned on about state history. But his mind kept drifting. Every time he reached for his phone, he thought about calling the number. But something told him it wasn't time. Not yet. Back at the dojo that week, things didn't quiet down. If anything, the twins' quiet victories stirred more whispers. Some kids praised them in hushed tones, impressed by what they saw. Others, influenced by Marcus and Tyrese, kept their distance. The mood had changed. And though Sensei Yamato kept a close eye, there were still moments. Sidelong glances, whispered jokes, subtle sneers. At home, Rochelle sat with the twins at the kitchen table, reviewing homework and eating dinner. Their house was small but warm. Every wall had something personal, a photo, a drawing, a reminder of how far they'd come. "You know," Rochelle said gently, "you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You know your worth. You don't have to keep showing it, but they think we're weak," Amara said, frowning. "They don't think you're weak," Rochelle replied. "They hope you are because it makes them feel stronger." Aaliyah poked at her rice. "They won't stop." "No," Rochelle said softly. "They won't. But you will rise. Every time." Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the windows with a soft whistle. Inside, the silence felt thoughtful, not heavy. The girls didn't need to win battles with fists. They were already winning in ways that Marcus and Tyrese couldn't see. But something was building. After class the following Thursday, as the students left and Rochelle waited outside in the car, the twins were held back by Sensei Yamato. He sat with them in his office, a quiet room lined with certificates and old black and white photos of him during his younger years. "You did well last week," he said slowly. "Very well, but I want to know, do you feel safe here?" The girls looked at each other. "Yes," Aaliyah said. "Mostly," Amara added. Yamato nodded. "Martial arts teach discipline. control, and restraint. When that is ignored, it is my job to step in. If something ever happens again, on or off the mat, you tell me. They nodded and he dismissed them. But as they stepped out into the cool night air and walked toward Rochelle's car, a shadow moved near the side of the building. Marcus, leaning against the wall, hood up, watching. He didn't say anything. He just smirked. Rochelle noticed him, too, as she started the car. "He waiting for something?" she murmured. Neither twin answered because deep down they all knew. He wasn't waiting, he was planning, and whatever was coming next, they weren't going to avoid it. They were going to face it. Together. That night, Rochelle stayed up long after the twins went to bed. She sat on the couch with a mug of tea gone cold, staring at the front door like it might explain something. She'd seen boys like Marcus before. She'd seen that smirk, that slow-burning anger. What made her uneasy wasn't that he was angry at losing. It was that he seemed to take it personally. Like it wasn't just about the match, but about the girls themselves. She thought about pulling them out of the class, just walking away. But something inside her stopped her. Maybe it was the way Amara looked when she stood still before flipping Tyrese. Grounded and calm, even when everything around her was chaotic. Or the way Aaliyah moved with such quiet purpose, never needing to raise her voice. They weren't scared. And Rochelle didn't want to be the one to teach them to run when the world got loud. Across town, in a dim basement barely lit by a flickering bulb, Marcus and Tyrese sat hunched over a game console, but neither one was playing. The game's loading screen looped again and again, ignored. Tyrese tapped a rhythm on his knee, eyes narrow. "She flipped me," he muttered. Marcus didn't respond. "You saw that, right?" "I saw," Marcus finally said. "I also saw how everyone looked after, like they forgot who runs this place." Tyrese sat back. "So what now?" we remind them. Tyrese looked unsure. "Man, they're just girls." Marcus turned to him, voice low. "Exactly. So why are we the ones who got embarrassed?" The silence said everything. Pride was a powerful thing. So was resentment. The next few days, things grew quieter at the dojo, but not in a peaceful way. There was a strange energy in the air. Some students started acting differently around the twins. Not aggressive, just distant, like they weren't sure which side to be on. A few kids still smiled at them in passing, but it was like walking through a hallway lined with invisible fences. One wrong move, and you'd be marked. Amara noticed it first. The way a girl named Bella, who used to train kicks with her, now avoided eye contact. Or the boy who used to offer her a towel after sparring, suddenly walking past like she didn't exist. It wasn't fear. It was pressure. Marcus and Tyrese hadn't said anything outright. They didn't need to. Their silence did more damage than words could. One evening after class, Aaliyah stayed behind to tie her shoe. She didn't notice Marcus walk up until his shadow fell across her. "You think you're better than me?" he asked, voice low. She didn't look up. "I don't think about you." That made him laugh, but there was no humor in it. Just heat. "You got lucky. One move. That's it. I train. I don't believe in luck." He stepped closer. Careful. But before anything else could happen, Sensei Yamoto entered from the back hallway, and Marcus quickly stepped away. Still, the message had been delivered, and it wasn't the last one. That same week, Malik found himself standing outside a tall glass building downtown. He had finally dialed the number on the note. The woman on the other end answered with only 2 words. "Come see me." He didn't know what to expect. Maybe scam. Maybe some stranger asking for money or trying to teach him a lesson. But curiosity had dragged him here. That and something else. Something about the way she'd looked at him when he gave up his seat. Like she'd seen something he didn't see yet. He was buzzed in and guided by a receptionist to a corner office on the 21st floor. When he stepped, he froze. The woman from the bus stood behind a large desk, dressed in a navy suit, hair neatly pinned back, eyes sharp. "I was hoping you'd call," she said. "Who are you?" he asked. I work with a foundation. We look for young people who make uncommon choices, not because they have to, but because they choose to. He didn't understand. She walked around the desk, handed him a thin folder. Inside were 2 papers. One, a scholarship application, already half filled with his name. The other, an invitation to a summer leadership program across the country. Malik blinked. "This isn't about the seat," she said. "It's about who you are when no one's watching." He sat down slowly, still not fully believing it. Meanwhile, back in their small neighborhood, Rochelle got a call from the school counselor. A boy in Alia and Amara's class had turned in a paper with hateful comments aimed at the twins, disguised as a joke, but mean-spirited and full of warning signs. He wouldn't say where he got the idea, but Rochelle didn't need to guess. The influence was clear. That night she sat the girls down. "You sure this is still where you want to be?" she asked gently. "I can take you out. We'll find another class." Aaliyah shook her head. "No." Amara leaned forward. "We didn't do anything wrong." Rochelle nodded, but her heart ached. They were learning strength, but also learning how the world reacts to strong girls who didn't stay quiet. Still, they went back. The next class was a quiet war. No punches, no yelling. But every step, every glance was loaded. When the twins walked in, Marcus and Tyrese were already warming up. Loud, laughing, taking up space like they were daring someone to challenge them. But the twins just stretched in silence. Calm, composed. Then Sensei announced the new partner drills. He paired Aaliyah with Marcus and Amara with Tyrese. The room went silent. No one dared say it out loud, but everyone was thinking the same thing. This wasn't just training anymore. This was the storm before something broke, and no one could predict who'd be standing when it passed. A hush settled over the dojo, like fog rolling in before a storm. Even the usual sounds, bare feet on the mat, water bottles clicking open, nervous chatter, seemed to vanish into a tense silence. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't just another drill session. It felt like the room itself was holding its breath. Aaliyah took her place across from Marcus. Her stance was steady, but inside her thoughts were racing. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Not from fear, but from focus. She knew Marcus would come at her harder than ever before. He had something to prove, and this was the moment he'd been waiting for. Across the room, Amara was already facing Tyrese. His jaw was tight, his hands curled into fists before they'd even bowed. He looked like he'd spent every day since their last match thinking about one thing: revenge. Sensei Yamamoto clapped once. The signal. The pairs moved. Marcus didn't hold back. He launched forward with sharp speed, testing her reactions right away. But Aaliyah was ready. She slid back, light on her feet, absorbing his aggression. She didn't try to match his force. That wasn't her way. She let him come to her, using his energy against him, just like their mother had taught them when they were little, when they used to spar in the living room with pillows and wide smiles. But this wasn't play. It was Marcus trying to shatter. Her confidence and the quiet determination in her eyes only made him angrier. Across the mat, Tyrese struck out at Amara with a rapid punch combo. Too fast for warm-ups, too forceful for anything but a challenge. Amara blocked the first, ducked the second, but the third grazed her shoulder. She didn't flinch. She didn't look surprised. She just narrowed her eyes and stepped closer. That single move, the choice to advance instead of retreat, sent a ripple through the onlookers. The dojo wasn't just a place of discipline anymore. It had become a battleground of pride, of power, of perception. Whispers stirred near the back wall. A few of the newer students looked to Sensei, wondering if he'd stop it, but he didn't. His eyes were calm, observant, not because he didn't care, but because he knew what this moment meant. For all 4 of them, they needed to face it. Rochelle stood in the observation area, hands clenched in her coat pockets. Her heart was a knot. Every motherly instinct screamed at her to step in to end it. But she remembered the way the girls had looked at her, so sure of themselves. She couldn't be the one to take this chance from them. Still, it hurt to watch. Malik entered just as the tension hit its peak. He hadn't planned to come. After the meeting with the woman from the foundation, his head had been spinning. But something in him had told him to show up. Maybe it was loyalty. Maybe it was something deeper. Some quiet belief that what he'd started by giving up that seat on the bus had led him here. He spotted his cousins immediately, locked in the middle of chaos that wasn't fully physical, but deeply emotional. Aaliyah and Marcus circled each other again. He tried a sweep kick, but she jumped, landed light, and retaliated with a fast palm strike, not to hurt, but to warn. "You're not better than me," Marcus hissed under his breath. "I don't need to be," she replied calmly. "I just need to be better than I was yesterday." He hesitated. That answer caught him off guard. He expected anger. She gave him something harder to fight: confidence. At that moment, Tyrese lunged at Amara with another powerful strike. This, one sloppier than the last, driven more by emotion than control. Amara stepped aside, twisted his arm, and for a split second had the opportunity to take him down. But she didn't. She let go. Everyone saw it. She could have humiliated him again. But she didn't take the shot. That choice, restraint, hung heavy in the air. Tyrese staggered back, chest heaving, eyes full of confusion. He wasn't sure what just happened, why she spared him. And that uncertainty shook him more than a fall ever could. Sensei Yamamoto clapped again. Enough. No one moved at first. Then slowly the students lowered their hands, stepped back. The moment was over, but no one was the same. Aaliyah looked at Marcus. He wasn't smirking anymore. His chest rose and fell, but his eyes had lost that cold edge. He didn't say a word, just turned away. Amara bowed slightly to Tyrese. He didn't bow back. Not right away. He stared at her, caught between resentment and something else, maybe shame. The class ended, but no one left quickly. Whispers buzzed through the dojo, small glances thrown toward the twins as they packed their things. Malik walked up to them, pride in his eyes. That was something. "They're still mad," Aaliyah said quietly. "Yeah." He nodded. "But they're not in control anymore." As they walked to the door, Rochelle joined them, placing a hand gently on their shoulders. "You held your ground," she said, her voice soft but strong. "We didn't win," Amara replied. "But you didn't lose," Rochelle said. "And you didn't become like them." Outside, the night was cool and clear. Streetlights flickered as cars passed slowly by. The city, as always, moved on without noticing the quiet battles fought within its walls. But inside the twins, something had changed. They had faced the heat of resentment, the glare of injustice, the sting of exclusion, and stood tall. Not with violence, but with purpose. Still, tension lingered in the air. Marcus and Tyrese hadn't disappeared, and just because this match was over didn't mean the story was finished. Sometimes storms don't pass. They just shift direction. And somewhere in the distance, something new was beginning to stir.